Hi again everyone, and thanks for tuning in to this, our fifth video in our study series on the first epistle of Peter. This week we're looking at chapter 2 verses 11 to 17, a small but important section which introduces the main body of the letter, which goes right through to chapter 4 verse 11. And in this section Peter is saying that because of our new birth into Christ and new identity as the people of God, we can now see that our suffering is part of our mission to demonstrate the love of God and bear witness to God's mercy. Now, this little group of verses begins by arguing that we should submit to our rulers and respect the culture that we live in. But even as we do this, we remain firm in our new identity and our behaviour as Christians, despite what it may cost us. Let's begin with verses 11 and 12. Now, the first thing to note again is that we see Peter describe the recipients as exiles and aliens. Again, this draws our minds to Abraham and then to Israel in the wilderness. The message is our time here is transitional. This might seem odd to some of us who have lived in the one country or the one town or even the one house all of our lives, because even if that is the case, we're still exiles. In this wilderness, we're still awaiting Christ's return. So as such, we're to behave in such a way that doesn't bring Christianity into disrepute, but we continually demonstrate the love and grace of God. Now, this verse talks about desires of the flesh or carnal desires. Things then that are now uncommon in public life in Australia. But that doesn't mean that this cannot speak to us. There are plenty of things acceptable in Australian culture that are similar in nature. Things like greed, pride, slander, and gossip are some small examples of this. We are to throw off these ungodly desires and to treat our neighbours honourably, so that they may know the glory of God through our actions. Now, this comes with a reminder which Peter continually stresses throughout the whole letter. Jesus is returning. So we will be vindicated in the future, whatever it costs us now, even if we struggle now. So how do we do this? How do we demonstrate this? Well, Peter moves on in verses 13 and to 15. So we are to submit to authority. Now, this is not making a moral judgment on leadership. In fact, the emperor at the time could have been Nero or Claudius, both who disdained Christians. This doesn't mean that our leaders are perfect. In fact, it was corrupt leaders who crucified Jesus. But this is all about peaceful residence. Accept all that is good in the leadership and peacefully resist what is bad. We are to perform good works. This is what Peter means by doing right, which is the same language, the same instruction Jesus gives us when he tells us to love our enemies. This isn't just about being law-abiding citizens and not pushing the boundaries. You see, conformity, especially then, is taken for granted by corrupt leaders. Rather, this is about actively doing good for our neighbours. So, for example, the opposite of the things I said before, not greed, but generosity, not pride, but humility, peacefulness, truth, justice, and love. So why all this? Well, because Peter sums up in verse 16 and 17. We are slaves of God. Now, it's kind of funny language here because Peter tells us to live freely, but as slaves of God. And this has always been the unique thing about Christian freedom. It's not about being free to do whatever we want, but it's about a change in master. No longer are we slaves to sin and evil. We have been redeemed. That's part of the message of what's come before this in the letter. Our new master is God, and we are now able to serve God freely. So we demonstrate our freedom, not through rebellion to our masters, but by the same way Jesus did, by showing love and generosity to our enemies. We may be in this world, in this culture, and there may be things in it that we can affirm, but Peter encouraged us to remain distinctly Christian, so that we may bring glory to God and declare God's mercies to the world. Thanks for tuning in, and again, you can find more resources on the website, the study questions and prayer points. Thank you, and bye.